Hi guys, welcome to Z Facts. Today we are going to discuss about the 5 paradoxes of time travel. So let's jump into the video. Time travel. Yeah, as most of you must be knowing, it's just traveling through time to the past or to the future as you desire. But when we travel through time, there are some consequences too, and they are known as paradoxes. Now, I'm gonna share with you the 5 paradoxes that's going to make you crazy if you keep thinking about it. Number 1. The Predestination Paradox. So, the predestination paradox occurs when we travel back in time and try to stop something from happening, but ultimately causes the event we are trying to stop. This results in a temporal causality loop in which event 1 in the past influences event 2 in the future, which actually causes event 1 to occur. Yeah, I will simplify. Imagine someone you love died in a car accident. Then you travel back in time and try to stop it. But instead of stopping, you became the cause of the accident that caused the death. This becomes a loop and ensures that any attempts by the traveler to alter the events of the past will simply lead to the cause of it. Likewise, the paradox suggests that things are always destined to turn out the same way and that whatever has happened must happen. The movies 12 Monkeys, The Time Crimes, The Time Traveler's Wife, and of course the Predestination are all great examples of Predestination Paradox. Number 2. The Bootstrap Paradox. The Bootstrap Paradox is a type of paradox in which an object, person, or a piece of information sent back in time results in an infinite loop where the object has no discernible origin but exists without even being created. It is also known as the ontological paradox. Now for the example. Imagine a person building a time machine, then he travels back in time and gives the time machine to himself before he even created it. So he will not build the time machine in the future, which was the origin of the time machine. So this creates a loop where the time machine will exist without even being created. The Terminator movies are a great example of the Bootstrap Paradox. Number 3. The Grandfather Paradox. Now, most of you will have heard about this paradox. So let's take a quick look. If you travel back in time, killed your grandfather, and then you would never have been born, and would never have traveled back into the past in order to kill your grandfather, and that creates a paradox. There are mainly 2 hypotheses related to this paradox: the timeline protection hypothesis and the multiverse hypothesis. Now let's say that you decided to kill your grandfather who was responsible for something like ruining the world or something. So you pop back in time, walk up to him, point a revolver at his head and pull the trigger, but the gun fails to fire. You point it at somewhere else, pull the trigger, it works fine, but when you point at him, it won't work. This is the timeline protection hypothesis. The timeline protects itself. Okay, now let's rewind. You walk up to him, point the revolver at his head, pull the trigger and bam, he dies. And you turn to the present and that's when things get messy. You have returned to a timeline where you never existed. This is the multi-universe hypothesis, which creates a possibility of alternate timeline and parallel universe. The movies Back to the Future 1, 2 and 3 can be considered as a grandfather paradox. Number 4. Let's kill Hitler paradox. Well, this actually is similar to the grandfather paradox, but if your grandfather paradox prevents your own birth, then killing Hitler paradox will erase your own reason for going back in time to kill him. Well, if you go back in time and kill Hitler, it can cause a huge butterfly effect. Since Hitler will be dead, none of his actions will trickle down the history, and there will not be a reason for you to time travel in the first place. Just don't overthink about it. Number 5. The Polchinskys Paradox. This paradox was proposed by the American theoretical physicist Joseph Polchinski. This was a scenario in which a billiard ball enters a wormhole and emerges out the other end in past just in time to collide with its younger version and stops it from going into the wormhole in the first place. This paradox is taken seriously by the physicists as there is nothing in Einstein's general relativity to rule out the possibility of time travel. Many of them suggest a solution mainly based on the timeline protection hypothesis, which explains the probability of changing the course of actions but says the timeline will protect itself. So, which of these paradoxes gave you a headache or heated up your brain? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell icon for all the notifications. And if you like the video, leave it a thumbs up.